Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. It's about almost 3:30 in the morning. About an hour ago, I'm a night owl. I was up working on Mopar Insider stuff for tomorrow. I got a press release from Stellantis basically naming Antonio Filosa as the new CEO officially today. So I had to come on here and talk about it a little bit. It's huge news. We knew that John Elkann was talking about naming a CEO by the end of the second quarter. And here we are today learning that Antonio will actually officially take the reins of the company on June 23rd. So why a month out? Basically, Antonio is right now is the COO of North America, the Chief Operating Officer. He's also head of quality control. So this gives him about a month to kind of put his affairs in order. And that way they can kind of put somebody else in his position, and that way he can slowly roll into the CEO position with no issues. So that's the reason why. They still have to have a shareholder meeting to have the shareholders vote on him, officially getting the CEO role, which it sounds like it will be a shoo-in. He was the leading candidate for sure. This guy has touched, pretty much anything he's touched has been successful. So he's been with the company since 1999. He started with Fiat Group, and he kind of worked his way up. Sergio Marchionne kind of found him, and during when they kind of formed FCA, and kind of put him into a leadership role. And since then, it boomed into something really great. So basically, he became the COO for the South American market. He was instrumental in making Fiat a huge success in South America. And a lot of people don't know this, but Fiat is their biggest market is South America. In Brazil, they own over 50% of the pickup truck market down there. And with his leadership, they actually introduced some very exciting products down there. So for example, the Fiat Strada, which is a subcompact pickup down there, is basically the company's second best-selling vehicle behind the Ram 1500. So that's a huge part on his, portfolio down there. He also, while the Jeep brand was also sold down there, he also basically created a whole era of building Jeeps in Brazil. So that started out back in 2015, and we're celebrating the 10th anniversary of it this year, of the Jeep Renegade being built down there. Then it was followed by the Compass, and then the exclusive Jeep Commander down there, which kind of trickled out to Asia soon after. So those vehicles have been huge successes for Jeep down there, pushing them into being the number one SUV brand. He kind of changed how Ram was doing down there. Ram had always sold trucks down there, even under Dodge, but they were selling basically just one trim level. They were selling the Ram 2500 Laramie with the Cummins just as one vehicle. And Antonio said, hey, we need more products on here. There's a lot of possibilities. So they introduced the Ram 1500. They introduced the Ram 3500 down there to huge success. And then they launched the Ram Rampage, which is that compact pickup that we always talk about on the channel and on Mopar Insiders. And that thing's been taking off like crazy too. So with all this success about stuff going on, even with other brands like Peugeot and Citroen, him bringing those down there and getting them kicked off, he was a leading candidate when it came to the COO position for North America. Now, the thing is, before he became COO, they needed somebody to fill in for Jeep. And because of his success down there, they actually made him the Jeep CEO. Now, it was very interesting that Antonio would come into this position because he's very passionate about the Jeep brand. Obviously, with his ties in Brazil to build this brand up. The first thing he did was he got rid of this Wagoneer sub-brand, merged with the Wagoneer products back in the Jeep, and we're going to see the first real clues of that coming up in the updates that we're going to see very quickly with the new Wagoneer. Now, instead of being badged as Wagoneers, they're going to be badged as Jeeps. Also, he started cutting prices on things. While Jeep has been super expensive in the last few years, he has cut back a lot. Is it enough? It's debatable. I personally think that there's a lot more cutting to do for pricing, but Antonio has done quite a bit compared to what was out there before. Also, he's also expanded Jeep's global reach. And under him, they, launched the Avenger over in, was it Europe? And now it's going global. We found out that Brazil's going to be actually building the Avenger down there recently. So there's been a lot of success with Jeep. And then on top of that, he basically came into a very hostile position with the COO role. Now, Mark Stewart, who was the COO for quite a bit, he basically left to go run Goodyear. He became the CEO of Goodyear. And they put Carlos Zalangas or whatever his name is. I always forget how to say his last name. But he was the Stellantis Mexican president who came from General Motors. And he was very much like a dictator. Came in and basically caused all this chaos with dealers and the suppliers. To the point where they actually ended up canning him and putting Antonio into that role. Now, Antonio had a lot of responsibility to come into and fix that reputation with the dealers. If you might recall, it wasn't that long ago, a few months ago, that Stellantis was named out of all the dealers that have to do with automakers. They did, basically this company sent out this survey, and Stellantis was ranked at the bottom of it with 72% of their dealer body not trusting the automaker. So Antonio, what he did was he went into dealers face to face with them, had dealer meetings, showed them new product, tried to put out the fires, and he was doing a pretty good job to the point where the dealers were actually, like the dealer council here in the United States was actually talking highly about him and how they loved having him be vocal for their thoughts and stuff with the company. On top of that, very recently, he's been dealing with supplier issues and stuff, but they also put him in charge of quality control for not just North America, but for the entire company. Now, Stellantis has struggled with quality control. For a while there, they were looking like they were doing better. They were at the top of some of the J.D. Power Awards, but since then they've kind of fallen off, and Antonio's been in charge of trying to fix that. Now, he got that position very recently, but he has for a month. He has a month to kind of get, again, his affairs in order for that position and the COO for North America position, to get them in order to give them off to somebody else who he can trust, and then move into the CEO role. So why is this so positive? Why am I being so positive about this? Because Antonio knows the company really well. Again, he comes from the FCA side, not the Peugeot side, the FCA side. And why I say that's a good thing is because he's ran North America. He knows how South America is. And being under, basically being kind of under the foot of Sergio Marchionne, he understands that how FCA ran and how successful FCA was. He will understand that each region needs to work independently of each other. They can share platforms, they can share powertrains, but we should be able to see him. I think one of his first things he's going to do is probably come in and start giving each region their own kind of leeway to do their own things, instead of doing this one kind of global thing where everybody's kind of doing EVs and stuff. So that's the thing. I think Antonio's a very bright star in the picture for Stellantis. Things aren't going to change overnight. They're just not. But he knows what the official changes are going on right now in North America. And I think there's nothing but positive vibes going forward, because obviously he's very passionate about the Jeep and Ram brands. He's been very vocal about Chrysler in the last few months, about how successful Chrysler has, or not successful, but how much potential Chrysler has in the future. He's been very positive about Dodge. So I don't see him, cutting Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram like we've seen comments about Chrysler being done. There's no way he's going to cut the Chrysler brand. No way. So that's positive. But there's a lot of other things that, he can put his hands on and kind of change going forward that would be very beneficial for the company. And him being part of the North American market, especially recently, he knows what's going on, and he knows that the North American market is their biggest market, the biggest money-making market. And I think he'll have a really good outlook on what to do to solve the problems that they're having with selling vehicles, because obviously he was the one that cut all the excess inventory. He knows stuff with the UAW, Unifor, I think there's going to be a very big positive move for North America with naming Antonio Filosa as the CEO. So we can only watch. He doesn't take the reins until June, late June. But nonetheless, it's good to know that we have somebody, again, from the FCA side who knows how successful FCA was prior to Stellantis, and that knows kind of the formula that Sergio Marchionne worked that was so successful. So, again, he's a different face. He has totally different outlooks than Carlos Tavares. And there's nothing more than I can say than he's it's super positive going forward. So other than that, again, it's early in the morning. Go on Mopar Insiders, read my article, and there's some quotes in there from John Elkann, which are really positive about Antonio. Antonio's very gracious for the position and whatnot, but you can go and read about Antonio's whole background on Mopar Insiders. So until then, I had another video scheduled, but this is going to be the morning video for sure. But until then, until the next video, make sure to hit like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.